All right, guys. It's August 4th, 2025. I'm back from my travels. And this is going to be a little different from a normal sit rep. The battlefield situation hasn't changed all that much. The humanitarian situation keeps getting worse beyond, it's just beyond anything that I would have thought. Like, I had this thought today where, when you have someone with anxiety or something like that, and they're constantly projecting like, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this terrible thing happens? And you tell them, you know, in some cases they're predicting such outrageous, horrible things that you just say something like, look, let's not even go there. You probably Canadians say that often. Let's not even go there. I don't even want to go there. Or I don't know if Americans say that, but that's a thing that Canadians say. And or like, that kind of situation, there's no point even thinking about that. And that's the situation we're in right now. We're in one of those situations where it's so bad that I don't even want to think about it. I wouldn't have wanted to think about it if, a couple of years ago someone had brought this up as a possibility. And that's where we live now. And so I kind of wanted to say this stuff before trying to go back to war reporting because it's been kind of like almost creating a mental block for me because the situation is so bad and seems so hopeless that you know it's like it leads to this either nihilism or paralysis of some kind. So what I wanted to say was, you know, uh, I wanted to kind of give some thoughts specifically for us, the kind of person that's listening to this. And I don't let anybody who's not on our team be on our channel for long. So if people that come on and are Zionists or racists or whatever, they come to mock, they come to jeer, they come to enjoy sadistically the pain that we're all kind of living through. I just block them while I have a block button. I always say while the block button exists, they'll never be on our page for long. But those of you who are listening to this, I look at the stats. We're mostly people in North America, mostly Americans, a lot of Canadians, some Brits, some people from Australia. There's people from all over the world, of course, Brazilians. I see the comments. There are even people from the Middle East, but Iranians. I see all of you. Okay, South Africans. I see all of you, but mostly Westerners, which makes sense. Mostly leftists, which makes sense. And um, like we have to really think about what are we gonna do. And for the past 2 years, every once in a while, I'll write a Substack with some kind of suggestion. You guys know that I want to, at some point in the near future, try to build some kind of an academy, a university kind of form that's not structurally racist against Palestinians and not structurally anti-Palestinian and structurally not structurally Zionist. I want to do that. It is an ambition of mine. A lot of you have stepped up and I've noted all of you and as we keep moving forward on that idea, you'll stay in the loop and I'll keep communicating that. I think Substack written form is probably better for now than videos, but I'll make the call out on videos when I need something. I've also I think more than a year ago, I've talked about the idea of a party. And, there are things happening there. Orban and Sultana have made a party in the UK. It's been much more successful than people could have hoped. I think it's so successful now that the Zionists are going to try to make sure they infiltrate it and destroy it. And it's not clear to me that there's any way to prevent that. That any lessons have been learned. Asa Winstanley, who's an expert on this, he works for Electronic Intifada. He's written about the downfall of Corbyn in the Labour Party. And he doesn't think any lessons have been learned. Another person, I think his name, yeah, David Miller, who's a big proponent of the de-Zionizing of the West. He doesn't think that any lessons have been learned. He knows the personnel that have joined the new party. He's not optimistic about it. So it's exciting in the sense that there's clearly an appetite for it. It's not exciting in the sense that there's no structural ability, it seems, to defend any Western institution against Zionist infiltration or destruction. And Eve Engler is running for the NDP nomination. They are throwing everything at him. But if you are in Canada, make sure you join the NDP and support that nomination. There's time and there's some fairly minimalist requirement to make that happen. So if that, well, we have to see how far this goes. But maybe they can develop a following and it'll be useful. But all of these things, whether it's the academy or a party or new institutions, Jason Hickel, who's a really good scholar of value transfer and imperialism today, he wrote a tweet recently where he said the institutions, the international institutions, the UN, etc., they were not built for justice or international peace or any of the things they say they're for. They were built to maintain the inequalities that were built up during the age of imperialism. And if you want institutions that do something else, you have to build them. But all of this assumes that the Zionist white empire, as Indy likes to call it, Indica, INDICA on Twitter, as he likes to call it, just the white empire. All of this assumes that that is destroyed. It is you can't begin the work of destruction until this war is over, until this genocide ends, and this war and genocide are not going to end until Israel ends. I really think that Israel has committed and the West has committed to genociding for as long as Israel exists now. There's no victory for Israel that leads to stopping genocide. If they succeed beyond any of their objectives in Gaza, they'll continue in the West Bank. I've said this many times. If they continue in the West Bank, if they succeed in the West Bank, they'll continue in Jordan and Lebanon and Syria. They will not stop until they are stopped. They will not be stopped by the West. They will not be stopped by this pedophilic, Zionist, racist structure that has revealed itself to be in charge of finance and military and cultural and media affairs throughout the West and in large measure throughout the world. So in the short term, there's no building of institutions that is going to happen. In the short term, people who want to stop this have only the physical actions that they can take now to stop this. So that's what we have to all ask ourselves in terms of, if you've ever been to a fundraiser or anything, if anybody, for whatever cause, in this case, Gaza, is asking for money and they say this thing, you have to give until it hurts, right? You have to give until it hurts. And if it hurts a little bit, you have to give more. And so the first question is, have you given until it hurts? And how much more pain can you take in terms of financially? That's the shortest term. But there's a story about Henry David Thoreau, and these are all white supremacists too that I'm talking about, but you probably have heard Henry David Thoreau, the guy who wrote Walden, walking around the natural landscape. And he was some kind of abolitionist. He had a friend, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who also laid down many of the racialist doctrines of of the 19th century that we're still saddled with. But nonetheless, I gather that Thoreau was against the Mexican-American War. This is the way the story is told. And his friend Ralph Waldo Emerson came to see him in prison and asked him, supposedly, what are you doing in there? Like, what do you think you're accomplishing with this protest, refusing to pay the tax for the Mexican-American War, leading to, being a prisoner of conscience? And Henry David Thoreau said, no, no, what are you doing out there? And it's sort of like that's kind of the situation that I think we're faced with, is like what if this is, as apocalyptic of a situation as it clearly is, how much of our freedoms, how much of our privileges can we stand to continue with? You know, you have families, you have children that are kind of like a guarantee of your good behavior. You're holding a phone that surveils your searches and your every move. Um, Everything you say is monitored online. There are all kinds of things that have bound you. They change the laws about what you can say. They change the rules about what you can say and publicly, what you can do. So you have to really think about what you can accomplish with people anybody that you know and trust. But I don't think we even have time to devote to trying to hold organizations together. This is where you guys know that there's this self-identification as a tanky that I have made with our little group, semi-jokingly. But you probably also know that I came from an anarchism friendly zone, and I'm still very friendly with anarchists. And anarchists believe in this kind of affinity group organizing, so they don't believe in just in trying to hold a huge organization together and doing all this work. And that's, to accomplish big things, you probably do need big organizations, and that's the tanky belief. But if there's no time and there's an absolute deadline, every second, every minute is more genocide, more mass death, more evil acts being committed and with impunity, then it really is probably best to work with people you already know and you already trust and do whatever you can um, on an emergency basis. Uh, and it's like kind of a question of how much. Sorry, I gotta sneeze. Hold on. Yeah, question of how much you can give, how much you can sacrifice, and and what you can accomplish in the absolute short term emergency basis. When this is over, whenever that is, whenever the actual murderous rampage actually ends, then we can talk about building institutions and punishing the perpetrators of genocide, punishing them for everything that they've done, and making sure that this can't happen again, rebuilding the international architecture that was supposed to prevent this from happening again, and actually making sure it happens again, which means totally different principles than the ones that have failed. And but right now it's an emergency. It's an emergency situation. So all you have is what you have in your hands, and what you can do right now, whatever that is, and whatever risk level you can tolerate, and whatever you can actually manage to do. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know what that is. It'll be different for everybody, I think. But that's the only thing that's on my mind right now as I make this sit rep. I'm sure I'll go back to following developments and reporting them and analyzing them for you. But today, uh, I kind of had to say that first, um, and I'll just conclude with some kind of related thoughts because um, things like dialogue, things like debate points, talking points, even gotchas, you know, that even I partook in and were found satisfying in the early years of this genocide are not that we I don't think we should be talking to the other side. I don't think we should be dealing with people that don't acknowledge our humanity or believe in our humanity. I don't believe that we should keep that channel open. I believe that these open channels are actually facilitating these crimes. I believe that what we what they are uh, what they need is for us to approach them like supplicants, and we shouldn't be approaching them at all. And our societies in the West actually need to be more polarized. There's this idea of reaching out across the aisle. There shouldn't be any reaching out across the aisle anymore. I think the time for all of that is long past. You don't reach across the aisle with genociders. And so if the time of talking is over and all of these avenues are closed, it is just a matter of right now, what is available to you to do? And what can you tolerate doing? I think I'll just stop there. I don't, you know, if this is if this is not all that useful to people, don't worry, because we'll get back to regularly scheduled programming soon enough. But I kind of had to say this and get this out before I can get back to normal work. So back to regularly scheduled programming soon enough. And in the meantime, hang in there and do do what you can up to your tolerance for pain. Okay. Um, it's weird advice, but I think it's the only thing we can even, it's the only way to think about this now. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one.